how can this be? How can all this be true? And all these people don't know it, or they don't respond to it, or they don't understand it. And they say they love their horses.
Mm-hmm.
I have asked numerous people over the years, what is the first thing you should do when you get new horses or a new horse?
Mm-hmm.
Before you get the horse. And I have never had anybody say knowledge, get knowledge to me.
Yeah.
Ever. And I wouldn't have said it either, probably back then, because, we started out with all of ours in stalls, eating mush sugar from a bag. Sugar is the worst thing a horse can have.
Mm-hmm.
And being locked up and wearing shoes, the whole enchilada. But once we got a hold of it, we went from zero to 100 pretty quick.
Yeah, it's good. It's good that you were looking into it and researching and caring like that, wanting to do the best for your horses.
Yep. So I walked down I try to do this every once in a while. It's not so easy here in Middle Tennessee, but we live relatively close to one of these really uppity, long time there stables for people who have horses that don't have a place to keep them. And
they care more about how they look on a horse than the actual horse.
Yeah,
more about their boots. Take better care of their boots than their horse. Yeah.
I walked down the aisle and I had somebody, some assistant or some guy who worked there. I just said, I'd like to. I was telling a little white lie because I was looking at the place as if I wanted to move a horse there.
Yeah.
And so they took me into this one. I don't know, 30 or 40 stalls in one building, and walked down, and there were no windows in it, just the front. And I was pretty much in tears all the way down the road, because these are horses who are basically thorn. There's nothing there is no life for them.
Yeah.
The horse is supposed to be moving 10 to 20 miles a day, and they're stuck in this stall away from the other horses because there's a wall between each stall.
I looked at it way before. Yeah, but it's like their boots. It's like they're putting away a pair of boots. It's like a living animal, but just like you put your shoes back in the box and then put them in your closet. It's like they get their horse and they put it in a stall and they put it in a barn. It's like.
And I asked the question. I said, I stopped at one and I said, how often does this horse get out of this stall?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 3 hours a day. We take them out and we exercise them for an hour, and we put them in a paddock. And I said, do they get with other horses? Oh, no, they'd get hurt. And I said, well, who takes care of them? Who cleans the stalls out? Oh, we clean them out twice a day, and we take them out and, like I say, exercise them for an hour every day. And the trainer comes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and so they get 2 or 3 hours of training in. I said, well, what does the owner do? And the guy looked at me like I was nuts. He said, it pays the bills.
Wow. That's sad.
And the owner comes out, on the weekend sometimes twice, both days on the weekend, and takes him out and rides him for a little bit and then brings him back. And I said, wow, that's really great. So he gets 3 or 4 hours a day gets to be out of this stall. Is that right? Yes, but not with other horses or any blah, 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 blah. And I walked on down, and I said, whoa, what's this? This horse is barefoot. I said, yeah, I've talked to that owner so much. You just can't do that. You can't do that. Horses got to have shoes.
Oh, my gosh. That's insane.
And I
what
said,
an
do you own horses?
upside-down world.
I said, do you own a horse? He said, no, why would I? Look at this.
Jeez.
So, anyway, it's sad, and it's
almost abusive.
And so that's why I am obsessive about getting these books out. And by the way, Soul of a Horse, which is a national bestseller, just went into its 17th printing.
Sweet.
This past week.
Congrats. Good.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Which is very cool.
When did the book first come out?
Say again?
When did the book first come out?
Soul of a Horse?
Yeah.
2008.
Huh, cool. So,
it's still cranking.
That's good. And so you say it's like the 17th printing, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that's good. So it's like more than once a year.
I every time I keep a stack on hand here for people who want them signed. They're less expensive on Amazon or somewhere like that than they are from me. It's just list price. It's $15 on the book. But somebody who wants it, there's a place on our website where you can go and sign up for, to get one sent to you that is personally inscribed.
Oh, cool.
And there's two. There's a sequel to the Soul. Actually, there's 12 different books there, but this Born Wild is the sequel to the Soul of a Horse, and it picks up right where the Soul of a Horse left off, and gets into the Mustangs that we adopted and on through that, and so you can get both of them together for less than buying them separately and get them both signed, or on Amazon you get both of them. Amazon cuts the prices so much that there's a much better deal over there. But they're there, and then there are 8 other books on horses that break down some of the things about barefoot, grass, diets, such as that.
Good stuff. We'll have to link to them in the show notes for people. Make them easier to find.
You say, looking back, what would I have done differently on one of your question lists that you said?
Yeah.
I just told you everything I would have done differently.
Yeah. If only.
I would have done it right.
Yeah.
When we started instead of wrong when we started.
Yeah.
But we have people, when people are in the area, who, have, read the book and communicated with email and whatnot, and asked questions or whatever, and they're coming through the area, say, any chance that we can come meet the herd or whatever, and if we're here and have the time, we always say yes.
Oh, nice.
Cool. But we have people who have been with horses for 25, 30 years. Just walk in, and their mouths are dropping open the whole time they're here, because we got 7 horses that we just talk to at liberty.
Mm-hmm.
They don't live in stalls. They have free access to the barn. Doors on both sides open, and they go where they want to go and do what they want to do. And when they come down, they do what we ask them to do, and they're by and large very polite and love to be around people. People say, I just can't believe this.
Yeah.
And you don't ever put a rope on them? I won't say never, but that it's rare that something comes up that requires a halter and a rope to be on them, other than riding. There's only 3 of them we can ride now, because Cash and Skeeter are both gone, and the rest of them have never been started. I mean, I've been on Sappy's back, but it was a non-event, and I didn't take it any further, because why would I? I don't want to spend every day down riding 7 horses to keep them fresh. That's not what it's about. It's about them and their lifestyle and what they're doing.
Yeah.
I ride Zeke around mostly bareback, but mostly inside our property, because it's not anything that exciting outside of our property. It's country roads. But we don't ride as much as we used to either. We used to go out to that place where we went to the trail ride that first time. We had a regular date on Thursday. We would trailer over there in the morning and take Cash and Skeeter and go out on the trail and go back into the heart of the park area where the ranch house was, and they have a picnic ground kind of thing there. And we take a lunch, kind of spread it out on the picnic table, and put the horses on a rope that we could hold and let them wander off and nibble on the grass. And invariably the custodian would come over and say, we have tie racks over there behind the trees where you can tie your horse. And I said, when we eat, they eat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
In your book, Joe, you talked about not having like blankets and heaters and all that stuff for the horses. Can you talk about that a little bit with us?
Well, the horse has an amazing ability to thermoregulate himself, herself, and it's there's one article on our website that you can anybody can go to and see, and it's called "No More Blankets," and it is introed and ended by me, but in the middle of it is an article that has been thoroughly researched by this lady, this very smart lady over in I don't know, Switzerland, Sweden, somewhere.
Okay.
There, where it's cold a lot. But her whole thing, she goes into detail of what goes on in the horse's body and how the hairs move up and move back, and there's a certain thing that the skin excretes to keep wetness in cold weather from penetrating the skin, and all of that goes away when a horse is covered with, or half covered with, a blanket. It's also very difficult on the body because you're not warming the entire body, you're warming just a portion of it. And so the body doesn't know what to do with that part that's not under a blanket, and consequently it gets confused, but it definitely screws up its ability. You can't leave a horse with a blanket that's been blanketed, for half a winter and then take the blanket off. You got to start fresh, come in out of summer in the fall, and let the coat develop as it's supposed to develop without putting any blankets on whatsoever. And the same thing is basically true with air conditioning or heating in a barn. It's not the horse is not designed to need that, and therefore when you provide it, it screws up his ability to take care of himself when he's out there, because the skin and the hair and all the things that are happening, within the body to protect it is going to waste when it's never needed. And my presumption on that is if you have a horse that lives in Florida, around the calendar all year, and then you suddenly take it to Minnesota, you better do that slowly and easily or something, because you better start in the best part of the spring and summer so that the horse can really develop into that. But I get emails all the time I have 2 or 3 articles and posts that I kind of put out on Facebook and the blog and so forth going into every winter to remind everybody of some tricks to do and not to do and that sort of thing. And I get comments back from people way up in Canada, and last year was really bad, as I guess Melanie.
Yeah.
I mean, it was down in the minus 40s and 50s, and
right.
wind chills and whatnot in some areas up there.
Wow.
And they send me the pictures of their horses just out having a good time.
Yeah, good. Cool. That's great.
And they don't really need it. My fear is, and in Soul of a Horse, I talk about it. One was when we were in California, and there was a rainstorm coming through, and it was 45 degrees out. Oh my. And I was soaking wet, and I was cold as the devil, and it was hard for me to grasp that these horses weren't, Why aren't they? Because you weren't built to do what they were built to do.
Yeah. People got to realize that. I've seen some of that. Some people think it's like, especially in Houston, like where people wear heavy coats when it's even 70, it's like ridiculous. But, but they think, oh, it's like 70 or 65 and I'm cold, so I better put like a blanket or something on my horse. Not.
Yeah, exactly. It is very, very much the wrong thing to do. It's not a matter of opinion or a matter of just feel good or something. It's just you don't want to do that. You don't want to goof up their own systems because they can handle themselves. Just dandy.
And what's that?
And they also use the sun in certain ways too. I mean, for other than when it's cold, because they can take a sun ray and chemically do something with it that helps one. And hay, grass hay, please, no grass hay, not alfalfa, not anything that's not grass. But grass hay is the only fuel for their heating system.
Oh, okay.
I've heard that they can survive. Yeah, they can survive in places where cows would die. They're so efficient at getting food and eating it and digesting it.
Yeah. Well, that's the grass hay. I mean, I had one fall in our pond the second year, I guess we were here. First year, no, it's the first year we were here because I fixed it after that. The pond was frozen over, and I was away. I mean, I was out running errands or something, and she apparently was trying to get some water, and it had frozen up to the edge, and so she was walking out on the ice trying to find a place where she could get some water, and she did, right in the middle of the pond. It broke through, and then she had to break the ice going back. It looked like a war zone. The pond did. It was, just shards of ice everywhere when I drove back in. And I found her. This is also interesting that horses are not like kitties, doggies, or us, for that matter. They will stick with. They will have friends, specific friends, and they'll stay with a lot of them sometimes and whatnot. But you don't see a whole lot of. You see some grooming from time to time. One grooms the other at the same time. But you don't see a bunch of hugging up. It just doesn't happen. And when I found her, she was down in the front paddock with Cash. She was Arabian is also, and they were good buddies. I mean, they would hang out a lot in the same areas and whatnot, and they were body to body, pressing body to body. She was just shaking like a leaf, and Cash knew it. She did too, and he was providing body warmth for her. And so I just freaked out completely and called the vet and talked to the vet tech, and she said, "He's not here. I'll find him." So, well, what do I do in the meantime? So get her out of the wind and get a blanket on her until she stops the shivering at least. And she said, "Do you have any blankets?" I said, "No, I don't have any blankets. I don't believe in blankets." And so, this was during the time that Kathleen had not moved over here yet because the kids were still in school in California, and we didn't want to take them out and move them in their last year. And so I came up here and stripped 2 beds, the cover, the blankets under the cover, and everything, and went running there. And I grabbed this is a good thing to know too. I grabbed a furniture pad that had not been used in the move from California. That was one of these, synthetic furniture, not the quilted kind, the kind that looks like gray composite or something. And it was still in the plastic bag, and I grabbed that as well and went down. And I threw that on first, and I don't really know why. I threw it on first. Maybe I was thinking, hopefully, the good blankets from the house wouldn't get totally trashed. This was on first. Anyway, I did, and then loaded 3 or 4 more on top of it, and then went and got some hay. And it was 5 or 10 minutes before she would eat, and then she started eating, and then she quit shaking. And then the vet showed up, and he checked her over, and he said, "This is probably the luckiest horse in Tennessee. There's nothing wrong. There's a little scrape on one back leg. And everything else looks good." And then he lifted up he was back at her butt, and he lifted up the blankets, and I mean, steam just poured out out from under the blankets. And I thought it was so cool because I've read it and I know it intellectually, but to actually see that her eating that hay turned everything around to the point that it was steaming when he lifted the blankets up.
Cool.
Just
good to hear.
Just great. And so that in the wintertime, when it really gets bad here, we waste a lot of hay probably because we put out more than they could possibly need to make sure that there's enough out there so that if they do get to feeling cold or shivery or anything like that, they can be sure to eat that hay and they'll be good. Grass or grass hay, either one, but there's not much grass when it's that cold.
And then I think for some people, seems like a lot of people like about 72 degrees. I heard someone talking about cats the other day, and for cats, the optimal temperature is like 86 to 92. And what about horses? What's the optimal temperature range outside for horses? Do you know?
I don't know the answer to that, but I know the range must be pretty good because, the wild horses live in a part of the country that can get very hot in the summertime and very cold in the wintertime. Mm-hmm. And there's a herd that I've been following that if you ever want to see really good wild horse stuff is Ginger Catherine's Cloud series. It was on PBS.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's excellent. And the third one is the most fantastic show I've ever seen with wild horses. But I followed that. She happened to be up there the day that Cloud came out as a baby, the day he was born, doing some footage documentary footage for some clients on some other subject. And so she started following him through the years and followed him all the way up until he was 26 or 27, 28, somewhere in there, he got ousted from his herd. The young whippersnappers came along and took him out, and it was just a short time after that she never found him again.
Sad.
But the series is just excellent, and the PBS must have thought that he was getting such a good audience that they gave her some more money or something on the third one. So she was doing a lot of 2 and 3 camera position stuff.
Oh, cool.
She could cut from close up to wide shot and actually tell a much better story than she could tell when she was just doing it herself with just one camera. And it's very, very well done. And you saw, I think one of Cloud's early fights from one of the bachelors is on that last one too. And he was almost like one of ours. I got so into him, but he also used it to study the terrain.
Barefoot
and whatnot, because they go to the top of the mountain, and they're in the Pryor Mountains in Montana.
Cool.
So they've got a wide temperature spread. So I've been really hot in Montana before, and I've been really cold in Montana before.
I just looked it up, like on University of Tennessee article here. They say a mature horse's average thermoneutral zone is from 40 to 80. But then, of course, they can tolerate temperatures like 40 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, as long as they're not wet. Because, like, they can get, just like Eskimos can use snow for insulation, and like animals get near the earth under snow where it's warmer. If a horse has snow on it, that can help. It doesn't melt. It can help it stay warm.
Well, there's one thing that I question on that, because I've done a fairly hefty amount of research on it.
Cool.
And it's, except when a horse is wet, and a horse ain't going to be wet at 40 degrees below.
Yeah.
Right.
And the area of temperature where the horse can get wet and it is cold is going to be somewhere in the freezing rain vicinity, which is going to be, 32 at the top, and who knows what at the bottom, but not much, because if it gets much below 32, it's not going to be rain anymore.
Yeah, I'll link to the article so people can see. I just skimmed it. We'll see what it says about all that.
Well, the thing. I mean, I always protect against it. That's why our barns are always open. They have access to call their own shots. But I have. We had a night of freezing rain. It wasn't the worst one because we've had one ice storm here, but we had one night early on in the first 2 or 3 or 4 years we were here. It was predicted for freezing rain, and it sure enough got freezing rain. And so there was one horse that I put, Skeeter, because of his age. He was getting older, and I put him in the side shed, shut both gates, and put a lot of hay in there for him. And then everybody else had hay, and I usually don't put hay inside, but I put it in the breezeway because if the hay's inside, the poop's going to be inside. And so I usually don't do that, but I did on this particular night just to have them out of the rain because it was going to be freezing or below and raining, not snowing. And so I went back down around 10:30 to check on him. And I walked into the breezeway, and there was nobody there. And I said, "What the devil is going on?" I started panicking, and I went running out the back of the breezeway, and there were all, however many there were, probably. I think it's been 6 ever since we came over here until Stormy was born. So it's 7. So it was 6 horses. So there was 5 horses out around the back gate of the side shed where Skeeter was wanting to know if he's okay.
Cool.
Standing in the rain, in the freezing rain.
Huh.
So, go figure.
Freezing for us anyway.
Yeah, that's why I do everything I can with our pastures. I mean, I don't do anything with our pastures except bush hog them, but which has been done since the last time we talked. I'm happy to say.
Cool.
We've had 7 straight days of no rain, which has to be the longest period of dry since January. But anyway,
wow.
I lost it. I don't know where I was going with that. So,
horses outside in the cold, being together, taking care of each other.
I don't know. I was headed somewhere with it, but I
turn around and go
home. Totally lost it. Oh well, it'll come back. But it is a thing to. I was talking about pastures and things like that.
Cool.
The pasture. I mean, leaving everything to the horse that I can possibly leave to the horse. Do. There are choices out in the pasture. I mean, because we got lots of choices. We got weeds. We got 4 or 5 different kinds of grass out there, just the natural, local native grasses, and trees, and say brambles, berries, whatnot. And there have been studies of how horses, if they have having a liver problem, they're going to go find some thistle somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thistle is good for our liver. It's also good for theirs. And if they need vitamin E, they're going to go find a blackberry or whatever. And so they do that. And I've noticed that several of them. I mean, I noticed that one. There's a vine that produces a purple flower, and I think it's a morning glory. I'm not sure, but Cash used to eat those like sucking up spaghetti. He'd drop one on, he'd pull one off the fence or whatever, drop it on the ground, and start on one end and just bring it up all the way until it was gone. He's the only one I ever saw do that. But he there was something in that he needed, he wanted, and in the wild they know how to take care of themselves, and they do. And
yeah, I've heard that about some other animals too. Like I think some chimpanzees do stuff like that also.
Yeah, well, I'm not at all surprised. And if we were that in tune, to what our bodies needed, we'd probably be a whole lot better off.
Yeah.
But that I try to do that with everything. It's their choice, so that they can, on any given night, they have access to the entire barn, the breezeway, and the side shed. At this time of year, they don't have access to the breezeway during the day because they spend anywhere from 3 to 5 hours in the side shed over there when it's really hot and when the flies are really out because it's really hot. And we have a lot of things we do for flies, but we also have 25 cows right across the road that nothing is they don't do anything for flies. And so we do have some, and they so they like to stay in the shade because flies don't like the shade, and humidity is cooler.
What all do you do for the flies? Control them?
First we feed diatomaceous earth. All of them get some degree of diatomaceous earth for internal parasites, and that takes care of the parasites, so we don't use poison.
Good.
On that.
Nice. It's good to hear.
Dewormers. And the diatomaceous earth, food grade diatomaceous earth, passes through the body and comes out the same way it went in because it's a silica. And so it's in the poop of the horse. And the horse's poop is all around. I mean, we are pickers. We know where that phrase came from. because we don't muck anything except the breezeway, and that's because that's where we are most of the time when we're down there and feeding and one thing and another. But we see a pile, we kick it and spread it out, the sun dries it out, it goes to compost or whatever. But with that diatomaceous earth silica in there, that continues to work in the horse's poop because it goes after any fly larvae that shows up.
Interesting.
Flies lay their eggs in the poop, then the larva is going to get whacked by that silica, the diatomaceous earth. We also do fly predators, and that's a little bitty creature, some kind. I don't know who did this research, but you buy it and they come in 1,000 to a little bitty egg or whatever, and you distribute it around where the horses are going to be and where the poop is, and those things also work on the poop. They go in and eat fly eggs and fly larvae. And they also, I learned this year, because I was really late ordering our fly predators, and found that once you had used them for 8 or 9 years, there must be a sub base somewhere that keeps working, because we have no fewer fly predators around today than we had this time last year. And I didn't ever order any, because after I saw them there, I said, well, I'm going to wait and see what happens. We also have a whole lineup of these great, and they are great, fly traps from, you can get them in Lowe's Depot, Home Depot, and Amazon actually has them also. And they're plastic bags that have a fly attractant in them. And you do a little cutting with the scissors and pop the top up and put a zip tie in it and fill it with water and hang it on the fence. And there's nothing poison about it. It's just the attractant that attracts the flies in, and the device is set up in such a way that the flies can't get back out.
Cool.
So they eventually drown.
Nice.
And so we line up. I think I've got about 8 of those bags lined up along the fence down at the barn that faces the road, where as the flies come over, they get nabbed, and those things fill up. I mean, fill up to where, and they stink like,
wow,
goodness gracious. So if the breeze is blowing the wrong way, they can be bad, but they do the job. I mean, they do keep the fly population way down, and they're all the ones I've got down there right now are really getting close to needing to be replaced because they're so full. I hesitate to think how many thousand flies must be in every bag.
Yeah.
And we have a Equiderma is our go-to fly spray. It's an all-natural, no chemical spray, and it is excellent. But
cool.
It doesn't last very long.
Yeah, that's too bad.
I mean, you basically, you almost have to do it twice a day. Some horses I do, and it's interesting to me because flies bother. They seem to bother Sappy, who's Palomino, more than they bother Stormy, we call Stormy, her baby, a sorbet. She looks like a cross between a sorrel and a bay, and she's got a little bit of red, but not much, but not really all the way to bay. And so we just call her sorbet. And it's funny, I go up to people and say, hey, that's Palomino, and what is she? I said, she's a sorbet. Oh, yeah, okay. I've never had anybody say, what the hell are you talking about?
That's funny. Wow.
But
that's funny.
That is amazing. But as I told you earlier, the people who aren't horse people are are not particularly amazed by anything that's going on down there. But the people who are horse people get really wrapped up in, oh my goodness, oh wow, 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 wow. And I swear to you that Zeke, because Zeke gets all of his no agenda stuff basically in the breezeway during feeding times. And, I spend a little time with him and do some tricks and stuff and whatnot. But I'm going back and forth between the hay bin and taking hay out to the troops and doing buckets in the tack room and filling them up with, our base feed is a forage in a bag that is a chopped forage. I call it chopped salad. And but like Sappy gets her thyroid powder on top of that, and we do Omega Horse Shine is a flax, really good product that is just loaded with omega 3s and gives everybody a good shiny coat such as that. And that's about it. There's a mineral supplement that goes on top of it to cover all the minerals that are not in the grass down here, and there are some. But it's again, it's a grass foundation, so it's a chopped forage foundation, which is what they should be getting, and there's no sugar in their diet.
Cool.
Period. End of story. And they again, I was going for a point. But they love the food, and so they always come in for it. And everybody knows where they eat. Where they are supposed to be. They, a good word and a point, and they'll go. And so it's all of that is kind of amazing to the. But while I was talking about Zeke, though, I was because he's there all the time. I'm going in and out and back and forth into the tack room and fixing the buckets, all that kind of stuff. And I've got him to a point now where when I say, Zeke, I got your breakfast or your dinner, he'll talk to me. He'll and,
nice.
And when he does,
Mr. Ed,
I give him a treat. Say, that's a good boy, you talk to me. And so now when he comes in and he's standing at the back panel waiting for somebody to come let him inside the breezeway, he I said, well, good boy, you're talking to me. And so I'm hoping to get him to a point to where I can just out in the cold without any, feed buckets or anything involved. I can just say, talk to me, and he will.
Yeah.
But what I started out to tell you with that story is that in the beginning, and this is an interest, it goes back to the trust and no agenda and all of this stuff. The first few days, I mean, he had a food problem, definitely. He was as if he was afraid that whatever you put out for him, he wasn't going to get. Somebody else was going to come get it or take it away from him, or it wouldn't be there for ever or whatever. And so he had an issue around that, and I'm sure it came from that point in time when he didn't have any food at all.
Yeah.
The guy went out of business and whatnot. But I'm sure the first couple of days, at least, if not longer, he was just totally freaked out. He didn't know what. I believe that horse had never been around a human being without having a halter on and a rope and living in a stall probably and all of that, because he didn't know what to do.
Poor thing.
At liberty, had nothing on, and I had no agenda with him. I was just busy putting the food together, getting the buckets fixed and the hay put out, all of that. And and I didn't realize this right at the time, but I think looking back on it, that's what the deal was. That he was he just didn't know what to do when humans were around. He was going to be tied up, haltered up, supposed to be doing stuff, and it was an interesting part of his education, his new education, to see him begin to handle it, get it, and understand that's nobody's going to come after him to do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So another thing I learned was interesting with him is he's very smart, very, very smart. He's basically learned everything that Cash knew in a very short period of time. And Cash was very smart as well, but Zeke picks stuff up and puts dots together very quickly. And there's a show that tours called Cavallia.
Mm-hmm.
That is it travels kind of like a circus, but it's an all horse show, and it's built upon it's a stage, but it's dirt, but it's set up like a stage, and they do a show, and it has continuity and all this kind of stuff with it, and it's pretty amazing. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube about it. And there's this one lady that has 8 or 10 horses that she puts in a row, but kind of in a half moon sort of configuration, and just as a part of a routine where she's dealing with all of these horses at liberty, and she gets them all up in there in this row, and she gives the cue, and the first one does a spin, and about halfway around, the second one picks it up and does a spin, and it's like a wave all the way down.
Huh, cool.
All 10 horses spinning one after the other, ding, 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 ding. And never mind, how in the world does she do that with 10 horses?
Yeah.
I focused on, how does she do it at all? How do you teach a horse to spin? And so I said, I'm going to work on that with Zeke. And so I went down and played with several tactics, and they were all, and I could see as I would do it, and he wouldn't grasp it, that the confusion, was there. Because the first thing I did was, in telling him to spin, I'd tell him to spin, and then I'd walk around in a circle and get him to follow me. But that was different. It was not a spin, and I finally realized that everything I've done with him has been face to face. If I'm telling him to back up, it's face to face. I'm saying, come to me, it's face to face. If I'm teaching him to bow, it's face to face, or flex, or say hello with his feet. It's, we're working kind of on a face to face basis. And if I'm pointing for him to go somewhere, pick up the point and go, it's always, some degree of face to face. And how do I get him to completely turn his back on me and then come back around?
Mm-hmm.
Keep the spin progress. And so I didn't want to do it this way because I wanted it to be pure. But I finally, in my own frustration, so I put a halter on him and a rope, long rope, and put the rope all the way around his butt. Used the same signals that I was giving him and the same words, and we use vocabulary a lot. I mean, our horses have pretty extensive verbal vocabulary, and with understanding. But I told him to spin, and I'm twirling my finger on one side and kind of pushing the air towards his head on the other, meaning go that way, and do it in a circle, spin. And as he began to go over in that direction, then I began to pull very lightly on the rope, which was run around his butt. So he had nowhere to go except to turn his back completely to me,
Mm-hmm.
and then come on back around, and I let the pressure off the rope, as soon as he was coming back around. And so I did that about 3 times and put it away for him to think about. And the next morning I went out there, when I went out to feed, I put it back on him and did a couple more of those, and then I took it off. I mean, literally probably less than 10 minutes total. And I took it off and said spin and did the hand signal, and he went right around.
Wow.
without the rope or the halter.
Wow.
And that has become part of his repertoire now. So when he's really desperate for a treat, he'll not only will he do all his other stuff, he'll spin.
That's funny. Huh.
But it's the dot connection that I just that I love. It's fun putting it together. And unfortunately, one of the things that I preach a lot now is get off the clinician dole and spend that time with your horses.
Yeah.
Because they will teach you more than all the clinicians put together. Because every horse is absolutely different, and every person is absolutely different, and every trainer is absolutely different. And you can't put them all in a mold, and you can't take what you do with this horse and transfer it to that horse, usually without making some modification, just because of the differences. And I found that when we started spending time with the horses, and it was driving me crazy, because in the beginning I was doing a lot of DVDs and various and sundry clinicians and how they do it and what they do, because I want to know how to do it. I want to know how to get this thing done. And yet I was driving myself crazy because I wanted to know why I wanted the horse to back up, or why I would, needed to do this, to do that, because it wouldn't make any sense. It was just an act, like a trick or something to get the horse to move his butt this way or move his butt that way, or go through a narrow space or back through a narrow space. Why are we doing all of this? And finally, on a couple of them, I got to the very end, and they start saying why, telling me why this very stuff, and one of them said, just go out and sit in the pasture and watch how they deal with each other, and what they do, and so forth, and get a handle on that, and get your trust built and your relationship built, and then start talking to them and doing stuff and see what gels and what doesn't, and where they get the thing. And I teach things differently to all of them, just because they are different. But you won't understand that, and you won't know that until you've really spent the time with them.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't put it in a list and say, okay, I'm going to do this. And honest to goodness, I have seen in their DVDs and things on the Pirelli side some level 4 people who are that's climbing from 0 to level 1, 2, 3, and 4, who shouldn't even own a horse.
Like how so?
In reality, because they don't understand any of it. They're doing the intellectual trick thing that they told them to do, but they don't understand why. They don't understand the horse. They don't know the horse.
It'd be like dancing without feeling it.
Yeah,
exactly. It'd be ugly.
That is exactly it. It's which unfortunately is the way I felt when I first went to Arthur Murray as a kid. But it didn't last long.
Good.
I got the feeling into it, yes.
Cool.
But that's why Kathleen said I had to make it to 102 dancing. I said, do I have to know I'm dancing?
That's funny.
It would be helpful.
Yeah. Do I have to remember who you are, or can I just dance?
But But it's true. I mean, just go spend time with them. And our no agenda time right now these days is with Noelle, who is the other Mustang who had her baby in California, and you know that story. And she was old, not old, but older. She was like 7 or 8 when she came out of the wild, and Safi was 4. And a horse is not mature until they're sometimes as early as 5, but usually around 6. Mm-hmm. 6 to 7 is when they really mature, and that's when mares in the wild will become lead mares, and the lead mare is the one who tells everybody what to do, not the stallion. The stallion is the protector and the procreator, and he follows when the herd's moving somewhere. The stallion follows from the rear, and the lead mare is at the head of the troop. But when you're the lead mare, you're responsible for everybody. Mm-hmm. And then her trigger was, when she first came to us, her fear trigger was just so razor thin. I mean, anything would just, she'd explode and run off, just scared to death. And I helped screw her up some because I tried some stuff, did some stuff early on that I shouldn't have, that I didn't know I shouldn't have, and I just made it worse. And so we started some time ago. Some years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, probably, with her here, trying to, because I have always said that I'm not going to cowboy any of them. I want them to come through on their own, to trust on their own, and to be willing on their own. And then we can go places. And when we, the series of events with her in California, having the baby, losing the baby at 3 months because he ran into a post and snapped his brain stem.
Wow, damn.
And then forcing her into a trailer, which she'd only been in one in her entire life that I know of, and that was ours, coming from Reno to BLM facility in Reno to back down to Valley Center in California. And you'll see pictures of her on the website with a halter on. And that's because we had to go over the pass in California, something like 8,000 or 9,000 feet on the way back. And it was December the 22nd, and there was another snowstorm coming. And I was worried about what might happen if something happened weather-wise or anything else. So we let them go ahead and put a halter on her. It's a halter that lived with her for several years because I couldn't get it off.
Huh. Wow.
I couldn't touch her, for the longest period of time. And the closest we ever got was that after Malachi died. We were both in such pain that she willingly was a lot closer. She'd go and stand about where he was born for hours.
Wow. Sad.
At a time. And I would go and stand next to her, and she would nuzzle up to me and whatnot. And then we throw her in a trailer, drive her 3,000 miles with 6 other horses. She had never been with the herd at this point in time. And over to Tennessee. And, just all the wrong things. She can't get back to. There were 2 things. There was a platform that I used to train Malachi on, step up on, and things like that. And there was the place where he was born. And then she would spend a lot of time at both places. And we took that away from her. And so we started spending our no agenda time with her. And she's come giant steps.
Cool, I'll bet. Nice.
She's never had her feet trimmed, but I'll do that when
Yeah.
the time is right. But I can scratch her and rub her anywhere on her body now. She's doing sort of a smile, and she's doing a kiss,
Cool.
and not being afraid to stand in place even when something a little weird happens. I mean, she'll still pull away if it's something really totally strange, and I can't walk into the round pen like with a bottle of fly spray or something. She won't let me get close to her. But
It'll happen.
But during no agenda time, she has come a long way, and she eats right. We've got alfalfa that, yes, I know it's not grass hay, but it's used as a treat after dinner for all the horses. They get a little bit of it, and it's right in front of us or right between our chairs. And she crams herself right in between those chairs. She's just doing all kind of good things, but I'm not gonna cowboy her. I'm gonna let her come at her pace.
Good. Yeah, that'll make the relationship stronger. Cool.
Anyway, she is. I'm convinced that she would be the sweetest horse we have if we can ever get beyond all the fear, which is a lot better than it was. A whole lot better than it was. But an interesting thing too, I did not realize this is just before Kathleen left for California, we were feeding down there together, and somehow we'd gotten out of sync. And Kathleen usually feeds. I have the front four and the backfield, the three in the backfield I call them. And they at the back of the barn, the front four gets fed in the front of the barn, and it's the three Mustangs and Zeke on the front side of things. Kathleen usually gets down in time to feed the back three, and somehow we gotten out of sync, and I was feeding Sappy, I guess. Well, she said, "Well, I'll feed Noelle." And oh no, it was when we were taking out the alfalfa after the feeding, and she took the alfalfa up to Noelle, and Noelle was standing at the closest part of the round pen watching me. And she walked in with the alfalfa, and I don't know what conversation there was, if any, or whether she just walked in and walked on or what, but Noelle usually meets me at the gate, and I give her I just let her bite one bite out of the wad that I have there at the gate, and then we walk over, and I put the rest of it in between our chairs and in her feed tub. And she never took her eyes off me. She didn't even know that Kathleen had it.
Wow.
And Kathleen walked over to her and called her and showed it to her, and she just stood there.
Interesting. Wow.
Until Kathleen picked it up and walked back over and let her have a bite of it, and then walked back over to the thing, and she went over and ate.
Neat.
And I never realized that she was apparently that fixated on me.
That's nice.
Individually rather than both of us, because we're both there during no agenda time. I'm the one that's doing most of the rubbing or scratching or whatever, but Kathleen's making progress with that because she's beginning to be able to pull twigs out of her mane without her freaking out. Anyway, now I'm rambling, so.
Yeah, but...
Melanie, did you have any other real questions?
I did have one, actually. I thought of a bit back when you were mentioning, little colts. I was wondering if you guys ever are thinking to have, I don't know, you said you have 6 girl horses and 1 Zeke is the only boy. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Do you think that sometime down the road, or have you already thought about having some more colts of your own?
No, not really. And the reason being, there's several bridges for it. Over here, a grass called fescue is the predominant native grass. That's a cool season grass, which is higher in sugar. And so I've planted just a ton of Bermuda, and some of it has come up. And our hay is always Bermuda because that's a warm season grass with very low sugar count. And fescue can have, and often does have, a fungus on it that causes, quote, great problems to the mother and the baby in the last, it's not trimester because it's 11 months, but the last 3 months of the pregnancy. And I've heard just terrible tales of vet where he lost the mother and the baby because they wouldn't take him off of fescue and so forth. And so when we brought Saffron up here, we had one half of the entire front paddock laid down. We had it scraped, laid down landscape cloth, laid down it's a limestone kind of thing. They use on roads that up here they call it crusher run. I don't know what that means. And then pea gravel on top of that for the entire paddock, plus 2 feet outside the paddock. So there's no chance that in the 3 months that she was supposed to be pregnant up before having the baby at our place that she was ever going to touch any fescue. And she had her baby 3 days, after she came. So that I wanted to call the guy who did all the stonework and everything and say, any chance I can get you to come take this back? Because we spent a bundle on it for, to keep her off of any kind of grass. But there's that problem. And I have asked a vet and not gotten satisfactory answers back. So, well, if it does something so terrible in the last 3 months, what about month? If you're talking backwards, that would be 11, 10, 9. What about month number 8? You just flip a switch when you go from 8 to 9, and suddenly, she can't have fescue, but up until then she can, and it's not going to hurt anything? I don't think so. And I haven't had a vet say, well, okay, well, but I said, then what about month number 1? Is there nothing bad going on inside her for month number 1? Well, it only really starts showing up until, but are you telling me that there's nothing going on? No, I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you it just doesn't hurt anything when the baby is small. Well, it hurts something if it's that bad, that kind of conversation. And so I feel like where we are right now, that I would not want to get somebody pregnant and then have to lock them up for 11 months.
Oh, yeah.
And I just couldn't make myself do it. Mouse, we have a friend who has a beautiful Tennessee Walker that is barefoot and bitless, has won 2 gating championships in the country. Gorgeous horse, really fun horse, good horse to know, and so forth. And he's still a stallion, and he's throwing off a couple of really good-looking babies at Raphael's place, and he would love to breed him to Mouse, or breed Mouse to him, whatever the terminology is. But our Mouse is an American saddlebred that was a rescue, and she was a mess when she came to us, and very young and skinny and feet looking like little elf shoes, with the turned up part. But the vet thought she was going to be stunted in her growth. But she now is gorgeous and big, and there's some great pictures of her on the website as well. And in fact, she has a whole page, on their website.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's a chapter in Soul of a Horse on Mouse. She
Mm-hmm.
was adopted up at Monty Roberts' place, and she was from the Rescue League of Iowa, which is both small and large animals. Long story, but anyway, she was sent out to Monty Roberts for some behavior training because they were all the ones that this rescue league were able to get the rights to court in the courts because it was a collector. Just they were in terrible conditions out there. Took 6 people to get Mouse into the trailer to go to Monty's place, and that's after she had jumped the fence once, and it was a 6-foot fence.
Oh.
And she was a baby. I mean, she was about 7, 8 months old. It's best we can tell at that point. Anyway, she's gorgeous, and they'd make a great baby, but I can't do it. I wouldn't lock her up. She's very active and spry and curious. And she's the one that's always in your face and in your pocket. I couldn't do that. So we say no at this point. I mean, the only real option would be to do another Mustang thing because generally, if you time it right and talk it right, Noelle was the same thing. She was supposed to be 3 months there. No, she was supposed to be 5 months. She was supposed to have a baby in like May, and May or June was where Saffron was supposed to have her baby. And so I think maybe the BLM just works off of okay, this is the date that they're going to get, in the spring they're going to get pregnant and they're going to deliver here, and they don't give room for any, well, it wasn't spring when this one got pregnant, But we did some back timing on Sappy. Stormy was born March the 21st, and we went back an exact 11 months, and that was my birthday.
Oh.
So Stormy was likely conceived if the 11th month is perfect on my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly on or around my birthday. And then Sappy, I don't think I added that part when I was talking about Sappy earlier in the No Agenda time. With the night that Sappy came and flipped her switch and got on board was my birthday also.
Uh-huh.
So that was Kathleen swears that's why she picked that day to say she trusted us. It was because it was my birthday. So
that went fast. Those 2 hours.
Would everyone benefit by spending some time around horses? Was one of your questions. Yes.
Yeah, it would.
But and horses, like I say, are very prescient, and as Michael noted, you walk in, they know what you're feeling and thinking before you do anything. And if your adrenaline is high, theirs is going to be high. And you do need to learn how to keep your adrenaline low, even if you would rather it be high. And it's true, they have this sixth sense that they can feel it, and I know for a fact that anytime my adrenaline has gotten up for whatever reason, whether it was fear or temper or whatever, it's, boy, you see it reflect all the way down the line. And a lot of them know the word. Zeke knows the word easy. time he acts up a little bit, I say, "You be easy, easy." And I say it real softly and nice, and he reaches out real slow to give me a kiss.
Huh.
Which is the easiest thing he knows to do. That's the softest thing he knows to do.
Oh.
So, but he is, he's the case. He's coming along great, though.
Neat. Great.
Uh,
Like a family. You know, everyone knows each other so well.
if someone wants to get started in horses, what recommendations do you have for them? Read The Soul of a Horse.
Yeah, true.
And
do it. Put it into practice.
Oh, yeah. I will tell people this. The book I'm currently working on is, the name of it is The Promises Made to Our Horses. And the subtitle is For Beginners Only. And I have sent it out several times. You know, it's still a ways from being finished. But anytime I get an email from somebody who says, "I'm just beginning in horses," and I say, "I will send this to you." And
Sweet.
Send them the document. Just
Yeah.
right off so that because it is all tailored for that. I say,
Good idea.
If you're not a beginner and you want to follow along, if you want to redo, come on. But why is it for beginners only? Because you can change the world. You're not all wired up with what Daddy did, what Granddaddy did, and the way that things went back on the farm and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a clean slate coming in, and you do the right things, and you're going to love it, and they're going to love you, and you can help you. That's going to go on to somebody else, and you can help change the world. But it's not ready yet. So, but it's probably about 3/4 done, so it's close.
Good.
Mm-hmm. I'll be good.
And when somebody needs it now, we'd be happy to send them what is there now, because that's the main point.
Cool. Yeah.
Promises Made to Our Horses. That's what it's called.
Good. Thanks.
What other horse people would you recommend?
Joe Camp.
Monty Roberts, of course. No, Monty Roberts. I would recommend. I mean, Monty and I don't agree on everything now.
No one does. Yeah.
But and I think that Pat Pirelli is terrific. I just think he's been, all of his stuff has been, like I said earlier, codified to a point that that they're playing on your intellect, rather than on your heart. And that's, I think, one of the big problems with horse ownership, is that that's the way it's been, is playing on the intellect, so the heart never gets involved in a true sense. And therefore they don't feel the same way about these guys that I do. And so they're not motivated to really spend a lot of time. This is what everybody says. They go in the stall, they eat some hay, and everything's fine. And they haven't they haven't reached the point of caring enough for that horse to really want to see it get the best life that it can. Therefore, they haven't done the research or done whatever would need to be. Well, I can't keep my horse at home. I don't have any place to put it. Figure it out. There's a way for that horse to live better, and I've got a whole list on the things on the website of people who have said to themselves exactly the same thing and did figure it out one way or another, where the horse was living a whole lot better than it was before, and they were happier, and the people were happier, and this short story after short story
good.
on the Soul of a Horse website. And it is just going over there right now to try to figure out exactly where it is. It's under several of the drop-down menus on the bottom. There's two menus across the top of the page, one in lowercase, caps in lowercase, and one in all caps. And it's in several of the all caps versions of the menu. And looking for it just so I can give you the title itself. Powerful stories from happier, healthier horses around the world is the name of the article, and it's in about 4 of those drop-down menus, and there's probably, I don't know for sure now, but it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 stories about just that, about people who can't keep a horse at home, or they can't. The only place that they can board will put them in a stall and won't let them out, blah, 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 blah. And the way these problems were solved.
Cool.
And as we talked earlier, and last time we got together when we were talking about Benji, if you're passionate about something, you will find a way, because the obstacles won't stop you. I mean, like, there's no way in the world that I was ever going to not get that first Benji movie made and done well. No way in the world that wasn't going to happen, because I was that passionate about it. And same thing with the horse situation. Once I got to the bottom of it, there was no way in the world that our horses weren't going to live that way, whether we had the place to do it or not. And so it's all possible. It all has to do with whether you're in your head intellectually or whether you're in your heart. And intellectual, and very rarely do the twain meet, I might add. It doesn't often happen.
Yeah, not often. It needs to happen more. But needs to happen more.
Yeah. But when you get down at the level, there's two totally different purposes, between the intellect and the heart, the emotion, and it. I don't know. That. You and I can talk about that. Over that glass of wine sometime.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Out in Tennessee.
Say what?
Out in Tennessee.
Yeah. So we got a big porch here. It looks right out over the pond to the pasture. And it's bush hogs now.
That'd be beautiful.
So you can actually see the pasture.
Cool. But yeah, we got to let Melanie go. She's got booked up and scheduled. So
oh my gosh,
I don't want to, but I really should, because they'll be here in a few minutes.
Hey, you got any last words, Joe?
Any what?
Any last words for the folks?
Trust. Let your horse trust you of his own free will. And set it up in whatever way you want. Join up, do no agenda time, but don't do anything until your horse totally trusts you. Because if you do it before, he's going to be logging in his brain all the things about you that you shouldn't be doing, and that's not what you want. I mean, the horse remembers this. They've tested this and proven it. Anything. I mean, 15 years from today. If Zeke left today and came back 15 years from now, he'd pick up right where we left off.
Yeah.
They know the people, they remember things, but they remember it whether it's bad or whether it's good. And the last thing you want in the brain of that wonderful creature is something that's bad, something that scared them, something that might have been mean, or a little show of temper, or a jerk on a rope that just because you weren't getting your way. And so you don't want that. You don't want that. You want the horse to trust you. You want to give him no reason ever not to.
Yeah, true.
Because everything changes when that happens.
Yeah.
And then life will be better for both you and the horse. Everything will happen faster.
Absolutely, it will. I mean, it changes the whole ball game, and in an amazing way too. Because I was astounded at how much it did change. I can tell tales on that over and over too. But
cool.
I hope some of it's been worthwhile to
a lot.
Everybody.
Good information.
And,
Thanks as always.
And
the voice of experience.
Check out the website. There's a lot of good information on that, and send an email if you got questions and all of that. And I hope that Michael, you and Melanie and the kids still hanging around, or they get tired of it and go.
My oldest is nearby, but the other two went off and did some stuff. So
I just hope everybody that we have a chance to do it again. So.
Awesome.
I know it.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Cool. Enjoyed it. Thank you
All
very
right.
much
I
for
did
your
too.
wisdom and advice and everything and experience. Appreciate it.
And thank you for having me and starting it. And let's talk again.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll
Sounds
talk
good.
with Kathleen together sometime. That would really
We definitely have to do that, but I can't
Please.
be on there, or she'll get on me for interrupting.
That's fine.
well, that'll be entertaining too.
Oh well.
Funny.
So we'll talk again soon anyway. So
Awesome. Sounds
there
good.
you
Thanks.
go, and thanks everybody for listening.
Okay.
Yep. Take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have
Bye-bye.
a good day. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.